Welcome. Get ready, because today we're stepping right into a full-on cyber detective story. In this explainer, we're throwing on our blue team defender hats to track down a simulated data exfiltration attack. We're going to take a highly controlled security simulation and break down exactly how defenders investigate and respond to suspicious activity using the modern Microsoft security stack. It's basically a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, and you've got a front-row seat to the whole investigation. So let's drop straight into the middle of a digital crime scene. Our starting point for this simulation is the exact scenario that keeps security teams up at night. Just assume an attacker has compromised a corporate laptop. But this isn't just any rogue device. This laptop is already enrolled in and managed by Microsoft Intune. The perimeter? Breached. The attacker? They're inside. And our objective right now is to understand the exact telemetry available to us as defenders so we can catch them in the act.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the compromised device, mapping the attack lifecycle.
Right, so everything begins with our managed Windows endpoint, which is essentially ground zero for our simulation. These are the high-level steps of the attack lifecycle. I want you to think of them as the digital footprints we're going to be tracking today. It all kicks off with that initial compromise of the endpoint. From there, it escalates into identity abuse, bleeding right over into unauthorized cloud activity. Now that is where the attacker's job ends and ours begins. We'll be moving swiftly through investigation, detection, and finally containment. But hey, before we can chase these footprints, we really need to understand the layout of the maze we're operating in. Which brings us to Section 2, Architecture of Defense, setting the traps. Because before we can catch our threat actor, we have to know exactly what security perimeter is actually monitoring them. Notice how this lab architecture flows from the outside world inward. An attacker comes in from the internet, hits Microsoft Entra ID where all our conditional access policies live, and then interacts with that Microsoft Intune managed device. As the attack actually progresses, endpoint defense data is scooped up by Defender XDR, and finally, the whole shebang flows into our ultimate analytics tool, Microsoft Sentinel. This massive interconnected web is exactly what allows us to see the full picture rather than just a bunch of isolated, noisy events. Section 3, Investigating the Attack, Piecing Together Telemetry. All right, so the first thing we need to do is contrast our two initial telemetry sources. Over on one side, we've got Microsoft Entra ID, giving us the identity context. Here, we're looking super closely at sign-in logs and conditional access decisions. Now, on the flip side, we have Microsoft Intune providing the endpoint context. This gives us the device's compliance status, ownership, and super specific device details. By cross-referencing these identity logs with the actual health of the device, we can definitively confirm the breach. I mean, the attacker might have somehow grabbed the right password, but the context of the device itself totally gives them away. And let's just look at how ridiculously fast this unfolds on the Defender XDR device timeline. At minute 1, boom, we get our initial compromise alert. Fast forward to minute 15, and the telemetry shows lateral movement being detected. By minute 30, we're seeing highly suspicious cloud activity as they attempt to discover and access sensitive data. And finally, by minute 45, the Defender XDR security alerts are fully triggered. This minute-by-minute breakdown shows you just how quickly an attacker operates in the real world, and honestly, why having tightly integrated security tools is just absolutely crucial. Moving on to Section 4, Hunting and Containment, Turning the Tables. Okay, so we know they're in, and we know exactly what they're doing. This is the exact moment in our simulation where we transition from just passively observing alerts to actively hunting the threat. To hunt effectively, we leverage something called UEBA in Microsoft Sentinel. If you're not familiar, UEBA stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics. It's this incredible process that baselines what normal user activity looks like so can instantly flag dangerous behavioral anomalies. Combined with Sentinel's investigation graph, this system maps out all those hidden entity relationships, literally letting us see exactly how the compromised user, the device, and the targeted data are all connected in real time. It's like seeing the Matrix. With those anomalies squarely identified, we execute some highly targeted KQL-based threat hunting. KQL, or Kusto Query Language, lets us dive super deep into the data. We filter out the suspicious sign-ins, meticulously review those alert timelines, and seamlessly correlate the identities with the devices. We're not just passively staring at logs here. We are asking very specific, targeted questions of our data to pinpoint the exact scope of this exfiltration attempt. And hey, the best part,
We don't even have to do it entirely alone. Security Copilot acts as our AI-driven cyber assistant. When you're staring at an absolute mountain of telemetry, Copilot steps in and instantly summarizes the chaos of the incident into plain language, offering up rapid response recommendations. It basically takes the complex correlation work we just did and turns it into actionable intelligence in a matter of seconds. It's a total game changer.
So, we have the intelligence. We clearly see the attacker. The ultimate question is, how do we neutralize this threat before the data actually leaves our perimeter? Well, we execute our rapid containment protocol. First, we immediately isolate the device so it can no longer communicate with the outside world or our internal network. Next, we instantly revoke all active sessions to forcefully kick the attacker out of any cloud services they've managed to access. Then, we reset the user credentials so they absolutely cannot get back in. And finally, we review the Intune compliance status just to ensure no other devices have been secretly compromised. Bam! The attacker is fully locked out and our data is secured. Now for our final phase. Section 5, Modern Threat Landscape, the Identity Crisis. Having successfully contained this simulated attack, let's just zoom out and look at the bigger picture for a second. This simulation wasn't just a fun exercise, it reflects a massive, fundamental shift in how cybercrime operates today. Now, what's really interesting about this is how perfectly the MITRE ATT&CK framework actually maps to the simulation we just ran. Notice how initial access wasn't some fancy zero-day exploit. It was achieved through valid accounts. Defense evasion was accomplished via trusted identity abuse. The attacker categorized every single move they made by just hiding in plain sight, perfectly mimicking a normal user. Which really leads us to this core thesis from the source material. Modern attacks frequently abuse legitimate identities instead of exploiting software flaws. The real battleground today isn't just about patching software anymore. It is all about identity. And this is exactly why correlating endpoint telemetry from Defender with identity and cloud telemetry in Sentinel is no longer just optional. It's an absolute necessity if you want to detect and investigate these threats effectively. We've tracked the footprints, mapped out the defense architecture, hunted the anomalies, and ultimately contained the breach. But knowing that threat actors are shifting their focus to the very credentials we use every single day leaves us with a pretty critical thought to ponder. If modern attackers don't break in, but simply log in, how secure is your digital footprint right now?